Leading off our discussion tonight, Andrew Weissman, former FBI General Counsel and former Chief of the Criminal Division in the Eastern District of New York. He's Professor of Practice at NYU Law School. Also with us, Neil Katyal, former Acting U.S. Solicitor General. They are both MSNBC legal analysts. And Bradley Moss is with us. He is a national security attorney with expertise in these matters. And Andrew Weissman, let me begin with you, and let me begin with the latest element of this story, which is this very short order issued by the judge tonight. Obviously, after reading this filing by the Justice Department, which must have been shaking in her hands as she was reading it, she is now saying she's instructing the parties for tomorrow. They are instructed to consider defendant's position as to the approximately 100 documents discussed in the motion for a partial stay. So she's asking both parties to consider what the Justice Department said about those 100 classified documents in their file.
Strong brief, as you said, pointing out a deadline for the court. That's very unusual, and it's because of the serious harm that you've laid out. And so I think what she did reading that is trying to figure out, can she take this off-ramp? Could the parties just agree to this? Does she have to really write a decision that says, I made a mistake? Can't she just sort of see if the parties will agree? And that way she doesn't risk looking even worse by being reversed on appeal. I also think that one thing I would slightly amend in your opening, it's not that the intelligence community doesn't know how to do this without the FBI. It's that it absolutely needs the FBI. And one of the things that was pointed out to the judge is the CIA and the NSA do not operate domestically. They operate overseas. If you need to have grand jury subpoenas and search warrants, it is by law, for very good reasons, that it's the FBI that needs to do that. So that goes to your point that, in effect, what she has done is said, I'm going to say that you can do a national security review, but in fact, they can't, because you really need those domestic authorities to do that.
So Neil Katyal, the 100 documents are the 100 classified documents that the Justice Department was stressing today should be pulled out of any consideration by a special master. It seems like she's saying to the Trump lawyers, what's your position on those documents? One of their positions could be, they're not classified. He waved the magic wand on the last day, or at some point in January, before he left office, he waved the magic wand. They're not classified. That could be one of the things they say. What else might they say about those 100 documents? And would this be the moment at which those lawyers have nothing else to say except, that's right, the special master should not be handling the classified documents?
I agree with you, Lawrence. This is a way to flesh out Trump's own position. And first of all, let me just say I apologize for looking like such a mess. I got off a plane that was very late, about 11 minutes ago, so that's why I look this way. But I think the department's filing to Judge Cannon today, it's basically one crystal clear message. Either you reverse some of the damage that you've done to our national security, or the Court of Appeals is going to do it for you. And after that train wreck of a decision that the judge wrote on Monday, the Justice Department here is giving her the opportunity to pick up a few of the pieces. And you're absolutely right. One of the things that it's doing by saying, look, we want just these 100 classified documents, is forcing Trump's hand. Are you going to say now in your filing later, in a few days, that this is all declassified by a standing order that you gave, which is what you've been sending your minions out to say on the TV? Or are you going to say this is planted by the FBI? Who knows? There have been so many shifting stories for this, but now he's got to make a solemn filing and put up or shut up. Does he think this information is classified or not? We saw the Justice Department's photo in its filing of all these highly classified documents. Now we know it contains even nuclear information. So all of this is a way to do that. But I also want to say something else. I think this Justice Department filing today is brilliant. It's among the best briefs I've ever written. Read. Just as a matter of craft, as writing, as strategy, what they're saying is, here, Judge, is a chance for you to do the right thing. We're not saying we won't appeal, but we can narrow the scope of disagreement to the most severe disagreement. And on Monday, I said, this was a bazooka when you need a scalpel, that it was a crazy ruling because there were only a tiny number of privileged documents, and here she wants to stop the entire criminal investigation. And what the Justice Department did today so brilliantly was actually the reverse of my point. They said, look, all we need is actually a handful of documents, the 100 or so classified documents. That's really the subject of the criminal investigation. They're obviously not Donald Trump's to own. They're obviously not attorney-client privilege. There's no attorney, working with those classified documents with you, Donald Trump. So give us those documents, and we'll deal with the rest later. Brilliant move. It's virtually impossible for this judge to do anything except accept what the department said here.
Yeah, and they made it clear in their filing that those documents are what the criminal investigation is about. They are the heart and soul of the criminal investigation in terms of evidence. Bradley Moss, let me put you in the position. You've been at the defense table in complex cases like this. Let me put you at the Trump defense table for a moment. Do they have a move here when the judge said to them, we want to hear from you tomorrow? What's your position on those 100 classified documents? What do the Trump lawyers say?
Yeah, so if I'm the Trump team tonight, I'm figuring out, one, did my client actually have any proof of this declassification that he talks about that Neil was mentioning? Assuming we don't have anything to push back on that, I'm throwing out the idea that a special master can have the authority, that the courts can have the authority to overrule the executive branch. There are some cases where the judges have concluded under, Article 3 authority that they can render a contrary determination. It'd be very controversial, but everything we've seen with this case has been very controversial. All the moves that have been made have been ones that most of us as lawyers wouldn't try. That's about all I'd have. It'd be a Hail Mary pass. But if they want to try to somehow bring the classified records into this special master review and to respond to this very well-written DOJ filing tonight, that's what I've got.
Bradley, let me give you one more defense counsel question. So we also released today, the Justice Department also released this filing saying, we are happy to release a document about the filtering that we've already done for attorney-client documents. We're happy to make that filing public. Trump's lawyers say, no, we oppose making that public. What's that about?
Yeah, what a shock. The Justice Department is calling the Trump team's bluff here. They've been talking, all this stuff in the media about how they want transparency and the government's trying to keep everything quiet and secret, and that the whole situation demands transparency and the public interest requires that this information come out. Sure enough, when push comes to shove in court, they don't want this information out. One, because it undermines their public argument about what these records are, and specifically the idea that we're talking about a tiny fraction of records, most likely, that might be subject to attorney-client privilege. That's not what they want. They have a media narrative they want to push right now.
Filed today. One is a notice of an appeal, and they can appeal the whole shebang, Lawrence, not just a little part of it. And second is this filing that says, with respect to these 100 documents or so that are classified, we need those now, and we need to be able to have unfettered access and use of those. I think what that does is it takes the most important piece of the case, the part that's the heart and soul of the criminal investigation, and puts it on an extremely fast track where the judge has got to decide in basically a week whether to give the department access. That could be appealed and the like, but I see that appeal, I think as long as the judge does the right thing, I see an appeal by Trump going nowhere. It can be summarily denied by the Court of Appeals, and if they try to go to the U.S. Supreme Court, then by the U.S. Supreme Court as well. At the same time, there's a whole bunch of other issues. I mean, this is a nutso ruling on special masters more generally and on 10 other things. And so I do think the department may still file that broader appeal, but what they're trying to do is move quickly on this narrow thing so that they can make a decision about criminally indicting Donald Trump in short order and protect our national security by doing the assessment that Andrew was pointing to before.
Neil Katyal, thank you very much for rushing from plane to camera to join us with your federal appeals court expertise. Bradley Moss, thank you very much for joining us, starting off our discussion. Andrew Weissman, please stay with us for the next segment about Steve Bannon in handcuffs day in New York City. We're going to need to analyze the charges of fraud and conspiracy